Hi everyone. This is episode 4 of Next Level Truth. So just in case you're walking straight through all of them at one time, like I am, I get tired of looking at myself. I did a little costume change. Yeah, it's only a hat and some different lighting, but this isn't Hollywood. If you want Hollywood, you're gonna have to go somewhere else. Okay? So last episode I talked about wiring, and I talked about building it naturally and organically the way a yogi would over a period of time versus someone trying to snatch it out and cram it into their head or intercept it in some way, and then they get damaged because they have a blown fuse. So the next natural thing to talk about here would be drugs. Now, some people are really anti-drug, and that's fine because there's certainly drawbacks. The problem is, taken indiscriminately, without intention or knowledge or guidance, a lot of negative things can happen. When used correctly, it can be, or judiciously, prudently, anyway, with some self-control and a little intention, you can have outstanding effects because it can dissolve barriers, dissolve energetic blockages, which old programs, it can do it much quicker than trying to work through it organically. So for this, there was a time when I was extremely anti-drug, but I have come to realize over a period of time the benefits that such things can have for some people, not for everyone. Any fear that you have going into it is going to ruin the entire process, because low frequency drugs versus high frequency drugs is a totally different experience. You can give someone the same age, the same health, they seem identical in so many ways, but if someone's at a higher frequency and someone's at a lower frequency, what their experience is going to be totally different, because your energetics, your thought processes, your expectations, everything affects your creation, which is another perfect example of how thoughts create things, and this truth. So what happens is, because we don't know about the energetic universe for the most part, people jump in, they do a bunch of drugs, and they get blown out because they see crazy things they're not prepared for, things they don't understand. The physical reality melts away and they go insane because no one told them that physical reality isn't real, that there's really nothing there. And then that's why they lose their shit, And it happens. Some people will go back and keep doing it over and over and over, hard drugs so many times that then they actually have neurological damage. It's the same thing. It's electrical overload. So there are spiritual ways to use them. There are recreational ways to use them. I'm not here to lecture you because I don't care what you do. This is your journey. But this is what I found to be true. That is the scientific explanation behind it, according to me. And so that's all I want to say about that. All right. So what I do want to talk about is, now as a targeted individual, what can you do for protection? And last video I talked about alkalizing food and drinks so that your body becomes alkalized and you have very clear, your physical vessel will be as good as it can be. You're not going to get sick. You're not going to have brain fog. You're going to have access to everything you can possibly do at that exact point in time and space. And that is a beautiful thing. If you've never done this, you should have this experience at least once. If you decide to go back to your old ways, great, you can. But it's a lovely experience. There's nothing like it. I'd highly recommend it. And right now, especially as a light ray, if you're a targeted individual or you just have things you really want to accomplish, or you have a special mission here or whatever, this is the time to do it. Do it like yesterday, because it will help you in so many ways. You'll be so much happier and more effective. So we also talked about alchemy in the last one, which has to do with your mindset choices. You want something nice to drink, someone hands you 2 lemons, and you can sit and cry about it, or you can give up. You can throw the lemons down, stomp on them, and go away thirsty, or you can figure out what to do with the lemons, and you can indeed make lemonade, which may be better than the thing that you wanted to begin with, and you get the picture. So you literally have a choice with every single thing that you do. For some reason, people are really attached to their habits And sometimes when there's something horrible happening and you dare to suggest that there's a silver lining, they get really bent out of shape. So you have to be really careful about expressing that. But I'm talking to light rays, so I don't think that it's a problem. I don't care how atrocious what's happening around you. You can use your mind to shift out of it and have some kind of a pleasant experience. Do you think Rambo just picked up a hunting knife one day and said, I'm going to be badass? No. If anyone actually, who wasn't an actor, became that badass in any way, it's because he's fought a million battles. So you have to be grateful for all these experiences. That's how you alchemize it. You're not going to be able to see the humor in something unless you can really stand outside of it and get out of the way. Then you can see humor in it. It's like if you look back at, something your dumbass ex did, that at the time was making you cry, and you can laugh about it 10 years later because you've removed yourself. You can do that at exactly that point in time and space. You can remove yourself from it. You're not pinching off emotions. You're not pretending or denying or anything like that. That's a problem. That creates, first of all, it stops the energetic flow, and it creates compartmentalization. And then we've got all kinds of psychological issues to work through, and God help us all. So don't do that. What I'm talking about is different. You're doing everything consciously. You're making conscious choices. You're realizing that you are a scalar wave generator. You're realizing how it works. You're realizing that every choice of every second of every day gives you a different outcome. You can even play with it, dare I say. If you're sad, you stand back and you see the humor in it, and you can actually laugh for a minute. And then you can choose to go back into the sadness. Now I choose to see the sad. You can go right back into it. And when I talk about you can't go from 0 to 1,000, and people will tell you that on an energetic scale, for the average person you can't, because they have nothing to go by. For the average person who hasn't done any spiritual work, they're not going to understand the end goal of enlightenment, or even many of the higher plateaus in between. But if you talk to someone who took a massive dose of acid about energetic realities and stuff, they've had some personal experience with it. They're going to get some of it. They have a very distorted sense of it, no spirituality, no context to draw from. They're missing so much of it, which is unfortunate, but they're still getting a lot out of it as well. So that's what I'm talking about as far as the energetics go. You really have to choose. When you're on the roller coaster, is it exciting or are you scared? And that's how you shift your reality. This has happened to me before. That's why I think it's such a good one, where I've been on the roller coaster and I'm terrified, but I know that it can also be exciting. And I consciously choose to make it exciting to get me through it. Some people have done things like this, and they've actually come where they hated it and they got there totally by accident, to that ends up being their favorite thing because they've mastered it so well, and they can choose to switch into that more positive perception. Because that's all it is. That's why no one can actually do anything to you once you understand how the energetics work, and that you're in complete control of your brain and you can choose at any moment. Everything changes. You're free. That's it. That's the enlightenment process. That's the freedom. There's some experience that has to go with it. It's not just a concept, because you're talking about controlling your mind, the beingness of it, not just the logical, the thinking, the hoping. It's the beingness. But once you be it, you're done. So, okay, so hopefully that made sense. Now, here's an example also. I just want to talk about narcissism, because so many of the dark people around you, or that are involved in many of the programs that may be coming after targeted individuals, are narcissists. Because there has to be compartmentalization in the human brain, I would think. Don't quote me on this. I am not a medical professional. This is my disclaimer. This is just entertainment purposes only. To allow you to have those types of experiences. But I could be wrong. I'm not an expert in this area. But I could be wrong. Anyway, so maybe scratch that. All I know is that there are a lot of them around. Whenever you have nefarious things going on, there are a lot of narcissists around. So, how can you tell? There's a lot of information out there about narcissists. But one perfect way is when you confront them. Say you have someone standing in front of you and you're like, I see the truth. You have red paint on your hands. There's a red paint bucket. You have red paint on your hands. So I know the truth. You put the red paint handprints right over there. And they're like, no, I didn't. They will look you in the eye and they will lie like a rug. It's the strangest thing. And they will do this over and over and over. That's when you know No matter how smart they are, how brilliant they are, whatever, that it's actually mental illness. You know, there's a weird compartmentalization that takes place with narcissism, usually through some kind of trauma, so that their brains are not working, because if anyone's brain was working normally, that would not happen. You know, once you're that busted, even a little kid knows when they're that busted, right? And they're like, you know, but a narcissist won't. So there's your clue. Don't take it personally. Don't take anything personally. Remember, it's all just in the mind. So any reaction, any feedback, anything anyone's saying or doing to you, or you're having experiences with, it's their experience that they're projecting. It's not yours. Don't participate. Okay? So the next step would be to truthfully evaluate your environment. Now, this can be a tough one. This is what causes a psychosis in so many people, and why you have to be careful about exposing too many truths too quickly. You have to look at your family, mother, father, sister, kids, brothers, sisters, spouses, everybody, and realize there are probably some narcissists or enemies amongst them. Now, it's possible that you have a family that doesn't have any, that they're all really great, normal human beings who want nothing but loving things for you. Personally, I think that that's highly unlikely. Possible, but unlikely. If you're a targeted individual, don't have your head up your ass, okay? Real talk. You need to be aware. Everyone around you is potentially for hire, and more than likely they are. This is why talking about this with people who have not gone through it can be really challenging, and you'll be labeled crazy and paranoid and everything else. I've already been through so much that there is to go through that I no longer care. It's not an act. It's not my ego talking. It really is my state of being. It's the only reason I'm talking about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't. I've already crossed through all that. So it's the voice of experience. And I remember all of the steps in between, and that's why I'm so sensitive when I'm talking about them to people. And you want to look for patterns. If you are suspecting things when you're first starting out, remember to look for the patterns. Your brain is a computer. Think of it as a computer and use it as a computer. Look back over your life at patterns and you will see them. Problem is, we've never consciously looked at our brain as a computer, and we've never analyzed, we've never looked for patterns and stuff. They're there, you'll see them. Once you start this process, it will go so quickly that you will be shocked. So, the next thing, my advice, is to allow for processing time. When you begin the disclosure process, you need a lot of processing time. One of the big memories that I have that kind of blew me out was when I decided to make some personal investments, and I thought tech would be a good spot to go. And at that time, everyone was talking about RFID chips, RFID, and I'm like, well, damn, that seemed like a good thing. And I looked, and I think there were like 2 places at least that were listed that were manufacturing them, and that seemed like a really good plan, right? Because they're in everything. So, just me being me, instead of just, buying some stock, I wanted to go all the way in and learn everything there is to know about RFID and blah, 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 and applications and stuff. And I did, and that's when I started coming up with some really disconcerting information. It blew me out in slang. It blew me out. And I went in deep. And then that desire, this is a good educational example. The desire to go in deep and to know the truth is what propelled me. It started with interest in finances and protecting my finances and wanting to make a good investment. And then it became so diabolically interesting that I wanted to know the whole truth. And I went in as deep as I could at that time and learned and got downloads. Information will come to you if you desire it in a clear way. When you desire truth, that's why it's the highest frequency. You will get your highly evolved downloads and information, whether they come to you physically, digitally on the computer, or spiritually. Okay, you'll get them. And I had visions of what was coming involving this technology. So it blew me out. And I made the mistake of talking to friends about it, and it didn't go well. And so I sat alone with the information, and it took me about 3 days and 3 nights to recover. And I'm not a lightweight, you know, I'm a veteran there with energetic wars, but it still took, it was a long recovery. And it still stands out in my mind as being one of the, because it was probably the first time that I had that experience of a full disclosure process, opening myself, putting the energy in, the consciousness, the desire, getting feedback and everything. It all came together. And it was big. It was big. So when you're doing this, again, just sleep, eat, exercise, take your outlets, and allow yourself processing time, and have faith. Develop a spiritual practice. If you don't have a spiritual practice, this probably isn't for you. It isn't for you. You know, I don't know what you're going to do. My recommendation is find something that appeals to you and run for it. If you're a targeted individual, you don't have a spiritual practice, I don't mean to laugh. It's not funny. See, I'm being Seinfeldian because it is really not funny. You're not going to make it for very long. Okay? You're just not. Or the other thing that could happen is with an inability to rise to the higher spiritual realms, you'll get drawn in to the lower spiritual realms out of fear, because that's the only one you're going to be able to connect to. That's right here in this reality, with the lower vibrational ones that are easy to see. And this could be how many people get sucked into these things. It's the only one that they can perceive of, so it's the only one they believe in. If I can't see it, I don't believe in it, right? So that's how that thing goes. That's the dangers of that way of thinking. So that was episode 4. I hope you had some value in it, and hopefully I'll see you in episode 5. Have a great night. Bye.